Hello and welcome to a Lord of the Rings Rise to War 2.0 video. I am the player who plays as the King Under the Mountain, and today I'm going to do a brief commander guide on Gandalf the White. Gandalf the White, in my opinion, is one of the best support commanders in the game in the formations now. I'm going to detail the reasons as to why that is. I know some people try and use him for damage, but if we're talking around about the respect 5 sort of point for these type of people, then I don't really think damage is the way to go. So just going straight into the skills then. His skills are the White, which deals an exceptional amount of focus damage if you do want him to deal damage, 450% every 2 rounds. He also gets plus 5 focus and a 25% chance of stunning the target if it's full. Wizard is another excellent skill. 270% focus damage once to 1 to 2 enemy formations. This damage causes the target's defense minus 10, which is quite a nice sweet spot actually. In addition, focus damage plus 5% for 1 round. If you are going down the damage build, those are the 2 skills. But to be perfectly honest, and this is the reason why people are playing him at the moment in this version of the game, to keep it very simple, White Council. As you can read from there, White Council has 4 allied formations receive 18% less damage from the first 5 hits taken, effect modified by the focus stat. That's going to come on to how we feel about the gear for Gandalf the White very shortly, because you're going to try and stack as much focus on him as you can, possibly even some command as well, but that's sort of 2 parts of the debate which we'll have very quickly. At level 5, this goes up to 6 instances, and at level 10, it goes up to 7 instances. This scale's pretty broken, and if you can get your focus high enough, you're talking about minus 65 to 70% damage mitigation in those early rounds. The other exceptional skill that he has, and what makes him another great support commander, is for the first 3 rounds, damage received 25% when it's maxed out to 2 enemy formations, and if you're at level 5, the duration increases to 4 rounds, and if you're at level 10, the targets increases to 3 formations. This skill, of course, is White Rider, and it's the other part of the support build for Gandalf. So what we would do is, personally, if I was building this commander, I would start by putting all my points into White Council to make sure the rest of my army can stay alive long enough by having this damage mitigation to cause serious damage. So he's a great person to have alongside any troop comp, particularly damage dealers. The other skill, of course, is White Rider, and I would start going into that straight after, for the simple reason that this extra damage to the enemy is really handy in those first few rounds to get you in front in the fight. This also helps mitigate the potential of someone else having a White Council skill or a different damage debuff skill, which allows you to sort of push the modifier back up and deal more damage in those early rounds. From there, I would put the remaining points, which I think at R5 you'll have about 3 points in here, into Wizard. And it just allows you to do a little bit of focus damage. Not a lot. The sweet spot's probably been able to get this skill to level 5, because then you also cause minus 10 defense. But this skill goes off every 2 rounds. So in the second round, it's a great way of getting rid of a few stacks of something like a White Council skill. So now we've talked through why he's a great support commander, let's just have a quick look at his relic, which is, of course, Glamdring. Again, this boosts his focus, it boosts his command, it boosts unit attack and unit defense. If you are looking to go into his more aggressive build with the 2 R1 skills, you would probably be talking about getting this skill quite upgraded and refined with Back to the Shadow, where you can do some physical damage and some focus damage, while also getting rid of some damage received if the enemy army has some orcs. Glamdring's a great relic weapon. Personally, if Gandalf was in a formation, I would definitely be having that. As for equipment, you'll see here that I'm running a set quite specific, and I haven't had a chance yet to upgrade my gear, because I'm actually waiting for the game to break down my uniques so I can sort of play around with my gear one last time. I've gone for the Fortitude set. The other sets that I would probably take a bet on with Gandalf, I would probably say, are... Let's go down to the weapon. If I'm running the support build, I would be looking for something like a thick armor, a Fortitude definitely, with the amount of physical damage running around. Evasive action again, so we make sure we're not taking as much damage. Divide and Conquer is another great skill for it. And any of the Fortitude, depending on what you're running, but realistically, the main one of Fortitude is probably one of the best, if not the best for him. If you are running a more offensive build, you would be looking into something like a Law of the Arcane, which would allow you to get that focus damage increased by 10%. As for the actual equipment itself, I would personally run either two ways of doing this. So either high focus gear, which allows you to max White Council as best as you can, or I would look to run something like a focus and command kind of build. And that is sort of the way that I've gone. So if I was running the full focus gear to try and get that White Council as high as possible, I would be looking at running as a best in slot item the Obsidian Dagger, because when it's fully upgraded, it has the most amount of focus for any weapon. Second's Morgul Blade, and from there you're looking really at a Noldor Sword, which does help if you're running the other side of command, but we'll come on to that quite quickly. So if I'm going purely focus, it's that. Then it's the Protection of Numenor, which again gives the most focus, followed pretty closely by the Great Plate of the East. And if we're talking accessories, we are looking at the Fine Smoking Pipe, which again has the most focus. Next to that, you're looking at the Signet of the Barrows, and from there really it scales down quite quickly into weaponry and accessories that you wouldn't necessarily want to use. You'd probably use purple items instead. As for the sort of helmet or headpiece, whatever you want to call it, Grey Wizard's hat is the best. Lots of focus, a little bit of commander defense, and then it sort of scales down from there. I'm personally at the moment running a Call of the Forest. That is for a different reason, as I'm going to swap this gear between him and Sauron, and it's to get that extra initiative. From purple gear options, you're looking at things like a Carver as your weapon. You are looking at the Hunter's Skin as your armor. You're looking at something like a Trapper's Hood or a Bone Mask for the most amount of focus. And then on your accessory, I'm fairly sure that the most focus actually comes from, it's from the Harp of Lothlorien. So that's pretty much how I'd be looking to set up if it was in one of those two. Those gold items are exceptional if you're trying to run pure focus. However, I will also explain why I think this theory is quite good for Gandalf the White, and it is getting a mix of command and focus. Now, command is very good because it involves getting the damage dealt by this army up, and it also gets the damage received by this army down. This is really handy because you want Gandalf to tank in this fight while boosting your other troops. So something like a Noldor Sword is kind of like a best of both worlds option for me. You get focus, but you also get command. If you're running his damage build, I would suggest you don't go anywhere near this weapon and you stick with something like an Obsidian Dagger, maybe even a Blazing Tongue, something that's actually got a damage stat because you're trying to increase that output. But because we're not looking to increase any damage from Gandalf, we're going to go into the Noldor Sword with the command. From there, I've gone for the Great Plate of the East. If I had it, I would still run the Protection of Numenor. It was just the fact that it fitted in with the skill set that I've gone for the Great Plate of the East. From there, I've gone for a Grey Wizard's hat. Again, you could put a little bit of command piece in there or something like that, or something that boosts unit defense potentially, so something like a Call of the Forest. But I'm just trying to get the most out of White Council on this particular thing, so I've picked two gear pieces pretty much just for focus, one that's a bit of a hybrid, and then this last piece of the Mirias Raid to give that unit defense plus 20, also to get a little bit of commander initiative again because I'm sharing this gear with Sauron, and to get some command again. I probably won't upgrade this too much, but it's just to try and get this command stat higher while also keeping the focus high. When I max this gear out, I think I'll be looking at something like just over 200 odd focus, which I think will be around between 50 and 60% damage reduction. which is quite a sweet spot, I think, for Gandalf in this particular build that I run him with. And I run him with Dane, Bjorn, and currently Galadriel, but as that goes further, Galadriel will be the piece of the puzzle that sort of drops out really for either a Witch King or something like a Scalhelm. But that was Gandalf the White in a nutshell. I'm going to try and do many more of these sort of commander guides on how they're used in formations. That was Gandalf purely in his support build pretty much, but obviously if you do want to run him in his damage build, you run those 2 R1 titles and you max the focus out on your gear. And that's everything. So again, thanks for tuning in and listening. Really appreciate it. Again, with gear and everything else while we're also learning, if in doubt, always follow your nose.